Today, the world pauses to remember three lives that touched millions across different walks of life. From the silver screen to the quiet stage of television, and even the icy slopes of international competition, these names carried dreams, talent, and courage. Robert Redford, a towering figure of American cinema, whose work shaped generations of storytellers. Patricia Crowley, a starlet whose grace and talent defined an era of Hollywood and television. And Matteo Franzoso, a young athlete whose life and career ended far too soon, yet whose passion inspired hope. Their journeys remind us of how fleeting life is and how deeply each soul leaves its mark. Tonight, we honor their stories, their struggles, and their legacies. The news of Robert Redford's passing has been met with deep silence across Hollywood and beyond. On September 16, 2025, the world lost a figure whose name had become a symbol of American cinema, a man whose artistry and humanity reached far beyond the screen. He was 89 years old. The announcement was confirmed by his family, who described him as a guiding light, not just to us, but to everyone who believed in the power of stories. Born Charles Robert Redford Jr. on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California, his journey was not an easy one. His early years were marked by both hardship and hope. After losing his mother at a young age, Redford carried the weight of grief but also the spark of resilience. In later interviews, he often reflected that pain had shaped his vision, giving him empathy and a deep curiosity about human lives. By the 1960s, Robert Redford had already become one of Hollywood's brightest stars. He stood tall with classic good looks, but it was his quiet intensity and authenticity that won audiences over. Films such as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting did not just entertain, they defined an era. Alongside Paul Newman, Redford became part of one of the most beloved duos in film history. Their chemistry on screen, filled with humor and humanity, remains timeless. Yet Redford was never just an actor. His heart belonged equally to directing and storytelling. In 1980, he directed Ordinary People, a film about grief, family, and healing. The work was deeply personal and resonated worldwide, earning him the Academy Award for Best Director. Critics praised not only his skill but his compassion. Roger Ebert once wrote, "Redford directs like someone who understands people before he understands cameras." His achievements stretched far beyond awards. Over the course of his career, Redford collected honors, including 5 Golden Globe Awards, the BAFTA, the Kennedy Center Honors, and even the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016. In 2002, the Academy recognized him with an honorary award for his lifelong contribution to cinema. And yet, what often mattered more to him was the space he created for others. That space was Sundance. Founded in the 1980s, the Sundance Institute and Film Festival became a sanctuary for independent filmmakers. Redford saw the need for voices outside of Hollywood's mainstream, and he built a platform where those voices could rise. Today, Sundance remains one of the most important gatherings for artists around the world. Many directors, from Quentin Tarantino to Ava DuVernay, have said their careers found light at Sundance. In his own words, Redford once explained, "Independent voices are the heart of storytelling. They remind us who we are." As the news of his passing spread, tributes poured in from every corner of the industry. Actor Mark Ruffalo wrote, "Robert Redford gave so many of us a chance to dream. His legacy is in every independent filmmaker who dares to tell the truth." Director Jane Campion added, "Without Sundance, my journey would have been impossible." Robert Redford didn't just act in films. He changed the course of film itself. But Redford's impact was not only in film. He was also a lifelong advocate for the environment. Long before it was fashionable, he raised his voice for conservation and sustainability. He believed that nature was not just scenery, but part of the human spirit. He once said, "The environment is not someone else's problem. It is our shared responsibility." His work with environmental organizations and his personal activism inspired many to see the natural world as something sacred. In the later years of his life, Redford remained private but never distant. He continued to support projects and young artists. He rarely sought the spotlight, instead choosing quiet moments with his family and the causes he believed in. Friends often described him as humble, a man who listened more than he spoke, and who carried his success with grace. The family's statement following his death reflected that humility. He never wanted the spotlight to be about him. He wanted it to be about the stories, the people, the struggles that mattered. His gift to us was perspective. Even outside the film world, ordinary people felt a connection with Robert Redford. For many, his characters were more than entertainment. They were reflections of human strength, fragility, and hope. His performances carried truth. His directing gave depth. His life reminded us that art, at its best, is an act of empathy. Looking back, it is impossible to define Redford by a single role or a single film. He was an artist who refused to be boxed in. He was the young outlaw in Butch Cassidy, the thoughtful director of Ordinary People, the founder of Sundance, the environmental advocate, the cultural leader. Each part of his life was stitched together by a consistent thread, a belief in the power of humanity. As Hollywood mourns, so too does the world. Theaters dimmed their lights. Film festivals honored him with moments of silence. Fans shared their memories online, with one tribute reading simply, "Robert Redford gave us dignity in art. We will carry that with us." His death reminds us of the passing of time. Generations who grew up watching him on screen now pass on those films to their children and grandchildren. His legacy continues not only in reels of film, but in conversations, in art, in dreams that he helped others to believe in. In the end, Robert Redford's story is not one of loss, but of profound giving. He gave performances that stirred hearts. He gave young filmmakers a stage. He gave his voice to the planet. And he gave the world a reminder that cinema, at its best, is a mirror to life itself. As we say farewell, we hold on to that legacy. Robert Redford will be remembered not only as an actor, director, and visionary, but as a man who believed in stories and in people. His influence will live on every time a young filmmaker dares to create, every time a viewer finds themselves moved by a story, every time the beauty of nature is defended. In memory of Robert Redford, the legend remains alive in art, in spirit, and in the countless lives he touched. The quiet news from Los Angeles confirmed the passing of Patricia Crowley, a star who carried both elegance and warmth through more than 5 decades on screen. She died on September 14, 2025, just 3 days before her 92nd birthday. With her, an era of classic Hollywood charm and television familiarity has come to an end. Born in Philadelphia on September 17, 1933, Patricia Crowley entered the world of entertainment at a young age. By the early 1950s, she was already capturing attention with her striking presence and natural ability to perform. Her breakthrough came quickly. In 1953, she won the Golden Globe for New Star of the Year, honored for her work in Forever, Female and Money from Home. That award marked not only the beginning of her career, but the start of a journey that would span across generations. The 1950s and 1960s brought Patricia into the heart of Hollywood's golden years. She shared the screen with legendary names like Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, Rosemary Clooney, and Tony Curtis. In each performance, she brought a balance of grace and sincerity. Audiences felt they knew her, not as a distant star, but as a familiar face who could bring both laughter and tenderness. By the time television began to define American living rooms, Patricia transitioned with ease. She appeared in countless shows across the decades. From dramas to comedies, her adaptability was remarkable. In the 1970s and 80s, she became a regular guest star, appearing in beloved series such as Columbo, The Rockford Files, and later Friends. For viewers, seeing Patricia on screen was like seeing an old friend return. Industry colleagues often described her as professional, kind, and deeply respected. She carried herself without arrogance, choosing humility in a world where fame could often consume. In a tribute shared after her passing, actress Jane Seymour wrote, "Patricia Crowley lit up every set she walked onto. She had elegance that never faded and kindness that everyone felt. Her work was not only about visibility, it was about persistence. Few actors sustain a career for more than 5 decades, but Patricia did so with quiet strength. She represented a bridge between eras, the glamorous Hollywood of the 1950s and the modern television age of the 2000s. Her ability to adapt, to reinvent, and to remain relevant showed her remarkable resilience. Friends and family remember her beyond the screen. She was known for her loyalty, her sense of humor, and her devotion to loved ones. In a family statement her children shared, "She gave us the gift of laughter every day. Even in her final years, she carried joy and light. We will remember her not just as an actress, but as the heart of our family." Social media, too, reflected the public's affection. One fan wrote, "Patricia Crowley was part of my childhood TV memories. She never played herself. She played people we could relate to. That's why we loved her." Another tribute read, There was a rare grace in Patricia. She was a reminder of Hollywood's best years. Her death at 91 is not only the closing of a life, but also the closing of a chapter in American entertainment. With her goes the memory of a time when Hollywood stars combined beauty with humility, and when television first became part of everyday life. Yet, as with all true artists, her legacy does not disappear. It remains in the films, in the reruns, in the quiet recognition of audiences who still remember her presence. Looking back at her career, Patricia Crowley embodied the definition of endurance. From the glimmer of a Golden Globe as a young woman, to the steady rhythm of television work across decades, she never let the spotlight define her worth. She allowed her craft, her professionalism, and her humanity to speak instead. As we say farewell, we do not only mourn what has been lost. We celebrate what remains. Patricia Crowley leaves behind a library of performances that will continue to be discovered by new viewers. She leaves behind stories of kindness shared by colleagues, and she leaves behind the eternal memory of a star whose elegance was never confined to the screen. In remembering Patricia, we hold on to the truth that greatness in entertainment is not measured by fame alone. It is measured by the hearts touched, the respect earned, and the grace carried through life. Patricia Crowley will be remembered as an actress, a pioneer, and a woman of quiet strength. Her light may have faded from this world, but its glow remains in memory, in art, and in love. The tragic news from Santiago de Chile confirmed the passing of Matteo Franzoso, a young athlete whose passion and promise had already inspired so many. On September 15, 2025, the Italian alpine skier lost his life at the age of just 25. His journey, which began in the snowy peaks of northern Italy, ended far too soon, leaving behind a silence that has shaken both the sports world and his home community. Born in Genoa on September 16, 1999, Matteo grew up surrounded by mountains and the spirit of competition. He spent his childhood in Sestriere, one of Italy's most iconic ski towns, where winters were more than a season. They were a way of life. From the very beginning, he was drawn to the slopes, fearless in his approach, graceful in his movements. Coaches quickly noticed his natural speed and determination, qualities that would carry him into the demanding world of alpine skiing. Matteo made his international debut in 2015, just 16 years old, racing in a junior competition in Solda. 4 years later, in 2019, he represented Italy at the Junior World Championships in Val di Fassa. His best finish was 14th in slalom, but the result mattered less than the promise he carried. Those who saw him race recognized his potential. He was fast, disciplined, and above all, deeply passionate about the sport. Over the years, Matteo competed mostly in FIS events across Italy, steadily improving and building his career. Each race was a step forward, each training session a chance to push his limits. Friends and teammates often spoke of his tireless work ethic. He was not just racing for himself, but for his family, his community, and for the dream of representing Italy at the highest level. When news of his sudden passing reached Italy, shock and sorrow spread immediately. His club, coaches, and fellow athletes expressed disbelief. A statement from the Italian Winter Sports Federation read, "Matteo was a bright and determined young man, a symbol of passion for skiing. His loss is not only ours, but for all who love this sport." Social media quickly filled with tributes. One teammate wrote, "Matteo lived for the snow. He gave his whole heart to every race. We have lost not just a skier, but a brother." Another fan posted, "He was the kind of athlete who reminded us of the beauty of the sport. Pure, fearless, full of joy." Beyond the competition, Matteo was remembered as someone who carried kindness and warmth wherever he went. Friends described him as humble, grounded, and always willing to help. He never carried the arrogance that sometimes comes with talent. Instead, he carried gratitude for his family, for the mountains, and for every opportunity to race. His family's words following his death were filled with grief, but also pride. "Matteo gave us joy from the very first day," they shared. "He lived with passion. He dreamed with courage, and he left us too soon. But we will carry his light forever." At only 25, Matteo's career had only just begun to take shape. There were dreams left unfinished, races left unwon, and years left unlived. And yet, in his short time, he achieved something powerful. He inspired young athletes to chase their dreams, no matter how difficult. He reminded others that sport is not only about medals, but about love, dedication, and the will to keep moving forward. The loss of someone so young forces us to pause. It reminds us of the fragility of life and of how precious each moment truly is. For Matteo, those moments were filled with snow, speed, and the quiet determination to go faster each time. His life was short, but it was not empty. It was full of passion and purpose. As tributes continue to arrive from across the skiing community, his name will not be forgotten. In Sestriera, the slopes that shaped him will always carry his memory. In Italy, his story will be told to inspire the next generation of skiers. On the world stage, his absence will be felt deeply, but his spirit will remain in the sport he loved. In remembering Matteo Franzoso, we do not only mourn what was lost. We celebrate the joy he brought, the determination he showed, and the dreams he carried with him. He may have left this world far too soon, but his legacy lives on in every skier who pushes forward, in every race that honors courage and heart. Farewell to Matteo, the rising star whose journey ended before its time. His name will echo in the mountains he once called home, and his light will remain in the hearts of those who watched him race with fearless joy.